Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. This is an explanation of Season 1, Episode 1 of Game of Thrones, in the light of all we now know. I'll pick out the areas of foreshadowing and hints of what is to come, as well as explaining what was really going on at the time. Obviously, if you haven't caught up to the end of Season 6, then be wary of spoilers. The episode opens at the Wall. 3 members of the Night's Watch are embarking on a routine expedition north of the Wall, investigating sightings of wildlings who had ventured much further south than usual. They soon find the massacred bodies of the wildlings, arranged in a ritualistic pattern. We see this pattern again in Season 6. It is the pattern of the stones in the place where the Night's King was first created. Is it a symbol, a worship of some kind? We don't yet know. But it definitely shows signs that the White Walkers are more than just mindless automatons. Anyway, when the Night's Watchmen look again, the wildling bodies are gone, presumably raised as whites, and one of them shows herself, her lifeless eyes now bright blue. 2 of the Night's Watch are killed, but the 3rd escapes. He is so scared he doesn't even stop at Castle Black. He just keeps heading south as far from the White Walkers as possible before being picked up by Eddard Stark's troops. As a deserter, he is sentenced to death, and Ned carries out the sentence himself as per his code of honour. This code, that the person who issues the death sentence must carry it out himself, is passed down to his children and seen time and time again in how they act throughout the series, from Arya's self-appointed role as judge, jury and executioner to Jon's hanging of the Night's Watchman who betrayed him. Before he dies, the Night's Watchman tells Ned that the White Walkers have returned. Ned doesn't believe him. After all, they have been gone for thousands of years, but it is clear that he realises something is wrong, especially when the group find a dead direwolf while returning to Winterfell. They never usually venture that far south of the Wall after all. The discovery of the direwolf and her pups is one of the most important moments of foreshadowing in the whole series, and in a way shows the entire plot of the first season. The wolf, the sigil of House Stark, was killed by a stag, the sigil of House Baratheon, leaving its children to fend for themselves. The Stark children each take a wolf cub, and the names they give them are hugely significant for the fates of those characters. I've done a separate video explaining what they mean in more detail. Sometime after they return to Winterfell, a raven arrives carrying dark news. Jon Arryn, the Hand of the King, has died. Jon Arryn had been a father figure to Ned as he grew up, so he takes the news badly, and is further troubled when they hear that the King and his court will be coming to Winterfell, presumably to ask Ned to leave home to become Hand of the King in Jon Arryn's place. At this point, we briefly see Cersei, the King's wife, and Jaime, her twin brother, down in King's Landing, discussing the death of Jon Arryn. Cersei is afraid that he might have discovered a dark secret about them before he died, but Jaime reassures her. Even if he had, he clearly hadn't told the King, or they would both be dead by now. Eventually, the King's court arrives at Winterfell, and are greeted by the entire Stark family. King Robert, to his wife's obvious annoyance, immediately visits the crypts with his old friend Ned. We get quite a lot of backstory here, about how Robert is king because of a rebellion he led years earlier against the ruling Targaryens, about how Rhaegar Targaryen took Lyanna Stark, Robert's fiancée and Ned's sister, who is now buried in the crypts, but she died before the war was over, and about how he still holds a grudge against the Targaryens, including the couple of them who are still alive. He suggests to Ned his son Joffrey should marry Ned's daughter Sansa, and officially asks him to become Hand of the King. While Ned is thinking about this overnight, a 3rd raven arrives. This time it is from Lysa Arryn, Jon Arryn's widow and Catelyn, Ned's wife's sister. In the message, Lysa accuses the Lannisters of murdering Jon Arryn and plotting against the King. This helps Ned make up his mind. He decides to accept the offer to be Hand of the King, go to King's Landing and investigate the death of Jon Arryn. What we now know, but did not then, was that all this is Littlefinger's doing. He masterminded the assassination of Jon Arryn and got Lysa to send the note accusing the Lannisters of doing it. He is trying to set the Lannisters and the Starks against each other, plunging the land into civil war. And he is succeeding. A couple of other noteworthy things happen before we leave Winterfell. First, Tyrion Lannister and Jon Snow meet for the first time. They are both outcast in their own ways, Tyrion on account of his height, and Jon because of his supposed bastard status. They become, if not friends, then at least sympathetic to each other's positions. This will, I think, prove most useful as we move into Season 7 and Daenerys is trying to forge alliances across Westeros. Secondly, we have Bran witnessing Jaime and Cersei's incest. This was what Cersei was so worried that Jon Arryn might have found out about, and she is desperate for this new witness to be silenced. Jaime, as infatuated with Cersei as he was, does as she asks and pushes Bran from the window. Across the narrow sea, we meet Rhaegar and Daenerys Targaryen, apparently the last remaining members of the royal family ousted by Robert's rebellion. They are staying at the house of Illyrio, about whom we discover more in a future episode, and Rhaegar is plotting to retake the throne his father had sat on. Illyrio has brokered the sale of Daenerys to become the wife of Khal Drogo, chief of the largest Dothraki Khalasar, the feared horse warriors of Essos. The price for Dany becoming Drogo's wife is that he will lead his Khalasar across the narrow sea and invade Westeros, paving the way for Rhaegar to reclaim the Iron Throne. The marriage goes ahead and is consummated, to Dany's obvious discomfort. But she does all that is asked of her, and at her wedding she receives two gifts that will have long-lasting implications. The first is a set of books about Westeros. What the gift is matters less here than who gave it to her. Ser Jorah Mormont, a Westerosi knight who had been exiled from his homeland and is now seeking service with the remaining Targaryens. The second gift, from Magister Illyrio, are 3 petrified dragon eggs. The dragons have long disappeared from the land, so no one thinks that there are actually dragons inside them, but this is a valuable and symbolic gift from Illyrio, and one which shapes all the events to come. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you want to see more like this one, please click on the subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, please check out my Patreon page. Thanks again. That's all for this time. I'll see you again real soon.